on channel 1200 for a good chunk of time, or when I'm flipping around, because I still believe, now, each and every day, the number of me's in the world get lower and lower and lower of people flipping around. But I do think there is a significant portion of people who are like me, who are like, hey, are the Blazers on tonight? No, the Kraken are on tonight. Oh, Mariners spring training is on tonight. We don't flip the guide. It does go to the 1200s. I don't search it all that often. So unless you are, as we talked about yesterday with the All-Star game, P1, I know they're playing tonight. I know whom they are playing tonight. I know what time the tip-off is. That's fine. You've already got the delivery system. And the fact that you can flip around and go like, because I'm sure not a big enough audience to make a huge difference, but I'm sure there's got to be enough of a percentage of people going like, hey, oh yeah, that's good. Let's go watch it. That's what are the Blazers on? I'd like to see this whole Scoot Henderson thing. What channel? Root? Oh, no. They must not play tonight. The Kraken are on. Now, for me, it's impossible to understand that thought process because, well, we do this show. We talk about the Blazers all the time. I watch every game. Brenden watches every game. It's our job. But we are obviously in the business. We're in the Thunderdome, right? There are people out there just working and living their lives who are like, oh, yeah. Are the Blazers on tonight? Let's see. No, Seattle Kraken. And by the way, nothing wrong with, like, I get it. The Kraken are cool. This is not a knock on the Seattle Kraken or the Seattle Mariners. What it is a knock on the Blazers deciding to go with a TV provider that put them third place at best, especially heading into the spring, because the Mariners are always going to be number one. Guess what? Pitchers and catchers have reported spring training is happening right now. There will be baseball being played in a time where, and again, the Blazers aren't going to the playoffs this year, but in
you don't say.
You don't say. 49% of you don't say either. They're out. But in a beautiful scenario where the Blazers say we're going to the playoffs, and maybe the Kraken were going to the playoffs, and the Mariners were opening up in stretch run NBA games on like 1200 in the 1200 channel. So we're definitely going to dive into that, and we'll do what we do on this show. We'll play the blame game. Whose fault is it? So we've got that coming up. Also, I saw an interesting X post or tweet, as we used to call them. You call it X posts or do you call it a tweet? I still call it a tweet.
Still.
But George Reister, former Oregon tight end and current media member. Who's George work for now? He has the Unafraid show. He works for Fox Sports. And he just threw out a random tweet because, this is the let's talk about it stage of college football right now. We talked about it with Josh Pate. What's the best part of college football? And I've always said the best part of college football is the experience. It's being there. It's the connection that you have. Brenden walked what are the halls there at Oregon State? What are the halls?
Milam Hall.
You walked the Milam Hall, the same halls that potentially did football players walk.
Oh yeah,
Milam Hall. Yeah, but you got a connection there. I did not go to Oregon because I'm one of those fans, but I grew up in the state of Oregon. I have a connection. It's a connection. It's the experience. It's it is civic pride. All of that. That's the best part of now. We got to have maybe the tough talk because we can all agree that college football is not in the best place. It's in an unbelievable place financially. I don't know if it's in a great place leadership wise. What's the worst part about it? What needs to be triage list, right? What's the first part that needs to be fixed if we are in fact going to live in an NIL era? And you're not unspreading that peanut butter because a bunch of dumb congressmen on both sides of the aisle decided to make it a law. Cutting the legs out from the NCAA, and it's so easy to just throw shots at the NCAA, but the NCAA was the referee. Somebody had to be the referee. Talked about it with Adam Silver yesterday. Oh, look at this league. It's like, yeah, because there's no vice principal. NCAA was the vice principal. And yeah, did they have some dumb rules, and could they have maybe done some things a little bit different? Sure. But in the end, the order and the organization that the NCAA brought wasn't the worst thing in the world. It wasn't. Nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to admit they like the vice principal. But you know what else I'd like? Not getting punched in the face by bullies in high school because vice principal, Mr. Withers is just standing right there. Kind of like that. So we may go into a triage of number one thing that needs to be fixed, or the worst thing of college football, because I love college football so much, but it's got some warts. Yes, Brenden.
It sounds like we're going to a doctor's office, Justin.
Yeah.
Like the triage nurse. Like you're kind of getting me into the medical terminology a little bit. And I'm like, I'm going in to see the triage nurse before we go get operated on. Like that's a $10 word, Justin. I'll give you some dap on that one.
I'd like to use the word triage because it is generally means like most important thing first. We want to fix silly stuff in the sports world, right? We want to fix the silly stuff. And we had a whole conversation yesterday about the All-Star game. The All-Star game is like fifth on the list in the NBA. It may be a symptom while we're doing this medical jargon while we're at it. And I will once again reiterate, I am not a doctor, and you should not take any medical advice from me. But there was a symptom of a bigger problem in the NBA that exposed itself at the All-Star game. And the symptom is cultural problem in the NBA of a complete disdain for the fan base and a culture of not trying. Talked about it a ton yesterday. We're not going to dive back into it today. But the All-Star game is on the things the NBA needs to fix. Tanking, load management. Those are two big things. Like, they had to put in a rule to make basketball players play basketball. Like, let's just let that sink in real quick. They had to make a rule saying, hey, you basketball players, you got to play basketball. And the basketball players said, this is too dangerous. Why are we supposed to feed our families off of $40 million a year when we got to play 65 games? Like, yeah, you have to work to get paid. Crazy concept. I know in your superstar foggy, everybody loves you, nobody tells you no brains, but every once in a while, you got to work to get paid. And a lot of people don't like to admit this, but your payment, your salary, that's a regular season salary. You still get paid that money if you don't go to the playoffs. You go to the playoffs, you play extra games. That's not part of your $40 million Supermax deal. We know that because we paid that money to Damian Lillard the last 2 years to not go to the playoffs. You're paid to work. No, it's too dangerous. If it's so gall-darn dangerous, maybe it's time to think about retirement. I don't know. But they had to put in a rule in the NBA saying, guys, need you to play. And at some point, they're going to have to find out a way to, how do we make them play in the All-Star game? I don't know. But Adam Silver's got to be like, think. So all that being said, we're gonna talk a little college football today because we're kind of in a bit of a lull. Coaching carousel finally's got a little breathing room after Chip Kelly left UCLA. What needs to be fixed? Is there a fix? Is this actual real problems, or is this champagne problems, right? So we're going to dive into that. I am fascinated, Brenden, by this Russell Wilson to the Jets stuff. Now, I know this is a completely made-up thing that the people who run Get Up on ESPN, and they're all Jets fans because you've got Mike Greenberg, who is the host of Get Up, even though he's on vacation. He is obsessed with the Jets, and you've got Steve Tannenbaum there, who is a former GM of the Jets, and their show is based in New York, and they understand that more stuff for the Jets and the Giants is better ratings and all of that. But Are we really sitting here? And I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson fan in the world, but I'm not the complete Russell Wilson hater. Do not know if I want him on the Steelers. But are we really sitting here in a spot where Russell Wilson, according to the folks on Get Up, needs to go and be a backup for a year to restart his career? Are we really thinking that that is the best case scenario for a guy that just 3 years ago was in the MVP discussion? Now, I realize that doesn't mean much because Cam Newton was an MVP, and then a couple years later, after that truck wreck, which nobody talks about, he kind of fell off. But usually guys, when they're at an MVP level and then they get into their late 30s, which I believe he's 36, the reason you fall off is injuries. Russell Wilson hasn't been hurt. He hasn't been hurt. He's not
Here's
injured.
my thoughts with that.
He's not injured like...
It's really simple. With how good that defense was, if Russell Wilson had been your backup to Aaron Rodgers this year, that team might come out of the... That's probably them and the Chiefs for the AFC Championship game. Not to... it's a hot take.
No, I don't necessarily
But that
disagree.
defense was elite.
They would have been in the playoffs. Let's just say that. I don't know if they're beating Patrick Mahomes.
That defense was elite, and I think that if you would have had a quarterback that wasn't Zach Flippin' Wilson, who is just horrible...
Yeah.
Or what's the other? Tim Boyle, or just the other Sorry.
I also think...
Jodes that they threw in there.
I also think there is a misconception as to what a backup quarterback is supposed to be in the NFL. I really do. So we're going to dive into that. So we got a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, friend of the program, Devon Pouncey, scheduling conflict. I said, with the NBA players, you got to go to work. He actually has a work. So not just going to show up and work for us on, for good vibes. So we'll get Pounce going next week again, but we've got too much stuff to talk about anyways. So Blazers viewership. Whose fault is it? Is it the delivery process? Is it the product on the court? Is it the lack of the one superstar that we were all used to having? Is it top-down ownership? We discuss that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so the Blazers are off for the next couple of days. They will next take the court on Friday. They got the Nuggets, right? They take on the Nuggets on Friday.
Great way to come out of the break, eh?
Well, judging by the numbers that we got yesterday, it doesn't sound like many of you are going to be tuning in because viewership is down. And we got to talk about this. We got to look at all the factors. And is it simply a lack of star power? Is this simply a lack of winning? I think it is a combination. Now, let's throw out some of the other reasons that a lot of people have said, and I mentioned it. The delivery service, right? So the Blazers are on Root Sports, and Root Sports puts the Blazers dead last in terms of live sports priorities. Multiple times, the Blazers have been playing, and I would assume Gen Xers and middle-aged dudes and women, middle-aged fans like me, flip around, and unless you are an absolute diehard, I know the schedule by heart Blazer fan, you might have missed a game or two going like, oh, I looked at Root Sports, the Kraken were on. I figured the Blazers weren't playing that night. Now, that may be a smidge of this, but I used to work at NBC Sports Northwest. We had our own problems. All right, NBC Sports Northwest, and Brenden, I'm sure you remember this because it was the same as the Pac-12 network, not on DirecTV. And that was a huge deal because the Blazers weren't on DirecTV when they were on NBC Sports Northwest. Sports bars in the greater Portland metro area had to have like that one dedicated TV where you still paid for cable because every sports bar has the DirecTV. Now, not anymore because of Sunday Ticket. Sunday Ticket went to YouTube TV, but football runs the sports bar business. You have to have DirecTV to have Sunday Ticket. You had to. Not anymore, obviously.
Like you said, previous tense. Previous
tense, before this last year. But it was from 1994 to 2022. If you were a sports bar worth a you-know-what, you had to have a satellite. You had to have a DirecTV because you had to have Sunday Ticket because that's where you make all your money. And so to throw out like, the 49% is just, it's down. It's because they're stuck en route. All right. But the numbers are 49% down from what? Last year. They were en route last year. Same station.
They were also tanking last year.
They were also for half of the year. Remember, for half the year.
Very fair.
Into February, they weren't tanking. They were just losing.
Yeah, remember the 9-3 start?
Oh boy,
that 9-3 start, baby.
Remember when I got the wool pulled over my eyes because I was like, I don't know, this team might be top 6. I don't even know if they're going to be in the play-in.
Oops.
I get real excited in November, But point being was, it's super easy. Like, well, they're stuck en route. Nobody pays attention to route. It's like they're on the same station last year, and the year before when they were on the station that I worked for. They didn't have it on DirecTV, which is another. And anytime ratings came in, Blazer ratings are down. It's like, well, yeah, it's because they're stuck on NBC Sports Northwest. You can't get them on DirecTV. It's always going to be a complaint. I don't think that is in the top 3 of things that are contributing to this fall off. Number 1 is and always will be lack of star power. That's why. We said how many times on this program, even last year, when Dame scored, what did he score, 71 points against the Rockets last year? And it was like, yeah, even when the team is not good, you could tune in, even on channel 1257 or whatever it is, on Root Sports Plus. You could tune in on a Tuesday night, and you might see something special from old Damian Lillard. You just might. It was always there. It was always a possibility. Not guaranteed, but there's a pretty good chance if Dame was healthy and he was playing, there's a chance you could see something special. Even in the tanking years, I think Blazer fans kind of hung on just a little bit because they're like, all right, well, because why are we tanking? Why are we tanking? To build around Dame. That's not me saying that. That's not the fans saying that. As a matter of fact, that's the Portland Trail Blazers that said that. We look to build around. Joe Cronin said that so many times. You could, we look to build around Dame. We look to build around Dame. They didn't. They didn't. So if you were to look at what is going on with this 49%, they don't have a superstar. For all its faults and the All-Star game lazy play and everything else, NBA is still a league that was built on stars. Built on stars. It started with Magic and Bird, then it went to Jordan, and in the Jordan era with Barkley, Ewing, and Elijah. It's built on superstars. That's why I think the All-Star game carries so much weight. Nobody cares that the Pro Bowl went away because the NFL is built on actual games being played and a Super Bowl. Major League Baseball All-Star game, it's kind of fun, but it's right in the middle of the dog days of summer. The All-Star game was important to the NBA because it is a league that is built around stars. Star power, celebrity. The Blazers don't have it anymore. They did, and they took it for granted for a long, 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 long time. And I think now we are seeing the effects that maybe Dame was the reason so many people tuned in and night out. Because these numbers are down 49% from last year. They weren't good last year. They weren't good.
Do you think it's also, like everything you mentioned with Dame, but do you think it's also just the fact, Justin, that like it's been 3 years now since the Blazers have had a product that was going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And eventually, is it kind of like, okay, cool, I supported him to the first tank, even the second one.
Yeah.
I'm just that I have better, like, not to, you and I don't feel this way, but I have better things to do with my time than watch a bad basketball product.
Which brings us to reason number 2. Because this is not just about Damian Lillard. I think a good chunk of it is, like you said, it's star power, right? I went to a concert one time, and it was Guns N' Roses. I'm doing air quotes. Was Slash there? Nope. Was Duff there? No. Was any of the drummers? No.
Who was there?
Was Izzy Stradlin there? No. You know who was there, though? Axel.
Nice.
Axel was still singing November Rain, and he was still singing Welcome to the Jungle, and it sounded like Axel. Now, did I really see Guns N' Roses? No. But Axel showed up and sang Welcome to the Jungle. Didn't take the stage till midnight. That was weird. But you know what I mean? Like,
Slash was too busy making the Capital One commercials, Justin.
Wow. It was before,
did you know it would be
that.
easier than adding Slash to your band?
Well before that. Slash was on a side project. But
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
I went to the Guns N' Roses show.
No, that's awesome.
I didn't see Guns N' Roses. I saw Axel and his backing band.
But
it's still Axel. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think the last couple, since they traded away CJ and traded away any player that was potentially capable of, I don't know, making an all-NBA team or making an all-star team, which wasn't a lot, but they traded them all away. It was like, oh, they still got Dame. Still, like, I still recognize that. He's still going to pull up from 30 feet, from 35 feet, maybe even 40 feet. Who knows? But they still got that guy. And then that guy went away. And now we are seeing. So there's that. Then there is, I think, a trust issue. You tanked year one, said needs to happen. Guys, we got to eat vegetables. We got to rip the Band-Aid off. We got to clean this up. All right, fine. And I think you can sell a fan base 1 year of tanking. Heck, you might sell them 2. And now they're not tanking this year, but after you did it the last 2 years, and remember, it was a year ago when Dame was still dropping 70 points against the Houston Rockets, 70-plus points. the Blazers still had a chance of winning a game night in and night out. And the organization, with about a month and a half, kind of about this time, with about a month and a half, said, Dame, your calf is too sore. And he's like, I don't know. I think I could play on it. And they're like, nope, it's too sore. Sit down. We got to go get Wembanyama. And they went for it. They shot the moon again. And they shut down Ant, and they shut down Dame, and they shut down Nurk, and they shut down everybody that could actually make a bucket. And once again, team got rolled out that was unrecognizable, but it was like, we still got Dame. He's still on the roster. Still have that guy. Then that guy went away. And I think some people at the beginning of the season said, we're going to give it a shot. No, I can't do it. I can watch tanking if it is for the greater good of building around Damian Lillard, because this community loves him. We saw the response when he came back. Sign that said, go get a ring and then come back. It's like, just be our friend, Dame. Just come back. That's how you get 49% viewership. Lack of faith and trust in the organization. Traded away the superstar. The one thing for the last 2 years, and this is sorry to throw ricochet shots at everybody, but no one was worth watching other than Dame the last 2 years. And so I'm sorry, just they weren't.
And what about the fact, too, Justin, you kind of alluded to it a little bit, the fact that at least when the Blazers had NBC Sports Northwest, it was their own. Sure, they had to compete with the great shows like, and I'm not sarcastic at all, Outdoor GPS, The Bridge, just awesome shows that people in the Northwest actually kind of miss. Just throwing that out there. But
I don't know, do people miss The Bridge? The first version of The Bridge?
Yeah, of course they do.
When it was live and it was an hour.
Of course they do.
And then
of course they do.
And then they came in and they started meddling with my show.
But is there, like you mentioned it a little bit with the Kraken, Justin, what does it say that at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, the Blazers are the third sibling behind the Mariners and the Kraken, and it will never not be that way?
I don't think it has as much to do with this as maybe some people think.
So you don't think the 1200 channel and the Root Sports Plus has an impact on...
A smidge, but again, these numbers are 49% down from last year. They were on 1200 last year.
That's fair. Yeah, that's true.
And again, I'm old enough to remember... Look, there's always been a problem with the Blazers on TV. There's always... It's just like...
Bring back the pay-per-view Trailblazers television, man.
Blazer Vision is what you were referring
back,
to.
Baby.
And
Let's go.
It's just like, so that is... Before Dame, there's always been a problem with the Blazers on TV. It's all, whether it's direct... Oh, we're not on direct TV. They're only on Comcast. We can't, And again, I grew up in Southern Oregon. And in Southern Oregon, guess what we don't have? Comcast. We got, I think, Charter. Shout out to Charter. Charter was terrible. But you couldn't even watch the Blazers in Southern Oregon. And so there's that. Then there is the Root thing. Like, well, they're not. That's a Seattle thing, and everybody gets. That's all. I think. Those are appetizers, because they were on Root Sports last year. This is a comparison. This comes down to decisions about roster and performance and the product. This is not a delivery. This is a product, in my opinion. Now, we can sit here and complain about the TV all we want, and it's understandable considering everything else that we watch. And I don't even know if we can even call it TV, but the big flat screen that you have in your living room and however you watch the content on it, everything is as easy as... And that the Blazers just seem to have to be difficult about it. Right? Because, the Blazers, now they're on Root, so they're on Are they on, is there a streaming? No, there's no streaming. Well, you got to get the Tubi, and then you get the Tubi, and so it's always been hoops to jump through. I think this big drastic, it shows, I think we were all a little bit delusional as to just how much water Damian Lillard was carrying all those years. And maybe a little bit unappreciative of the amount of water that he was carrying, the people that showed up at the games, the people that watched the games on, this is of the 49%, I think you could say 40% of it is Dame's not on the team anymore. That dude was carrying the water. He had a whole organization on his back. And then they drafted a 19-year-old kid who played the same position as him. And they're not winning. This is not rocket science. This is not brain surgery. This is elementary school math, first grade. Not even a story problem. Well, even though I was good at story problems. There are some kids, they didn't do well in the story. I was clutch at the story problems. The regular problems, I was tough. But this is elementary school math. Dame's number was 0, yet somehow you minus 0, you lose 49%. Do that math. I think it is that, and I think it is combined because, again, same channel. You could have maybe made a case back in the day of, I remember because I saw when Mike and Mike got replaced with Calabro and Lamar, but like we're past that now. So it's still Calabro, still Lamar, it's still Brooke, right? It's still a terrific team there. What's changed? You lose Dame, you lose hope, and the hope that maybe you could get something go. And I believe there is a lack of trust in the organization. That combined with lack of star power. But it's like, hey, trust us. We got to tank. It's for your own good. All right. Trust us. We got to do it again. It's for your own good. Got it. 3 times in a row for our own good.
Can I
really? All these players keep getting injured. Nobody seems to be getting healthy. What's going on?
And I'll throw in another one that just came to mind, Justin, as well. How much of that 49% are, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm curious your thoughts, are like, sell the team? How much of that is a part of it, too, that are ready for a new ownership group? And because, like you said, there's been no transparency with ownership and Joe Cronin. It's like, trust us, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And they've done it a lot nicer than Big Haircut, who was like, you're all doofuses. I know what I'm doing. So it's nicer.
He made the playoffs, though.
It's true. That's what I'm saying. He knew how to build a winner, kind of.
By the way, speaking of knowing what they're doing, you know who knows what they're doing? When it comes to things like, I don't know, roofing, siding, windows, bathroom renovations. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. That's right, DeBella. That's right, they are Oregon's roofing, siding, windows, and bath experts. They're the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers, but something that they are helping you out with in 2024, that's saving money. By updating your roof with solar shingles, you could potentially pay for your roof with savings to your energy bill plus federal or state incentives. All you got to do is contact DeBella for all the details. Plus, their estimates are super easy, convenient, free, and scheduled on your time. You might have seen DeBella's excellent work in Better Homes and Garden, Real Simple, and HGTV. I watched the HGTV last night. Watch it most nights. And in my opinion, DeBella will handle your home improvement project better than anyone else in Oregon. Now, why do I have that opinion? Well, 15,000 5-star reviews and getting more and more every single day. 15,000 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work, and you'll get award-winning customer service. They've received accolades from Angie's List, Home Advisor, and now is the perfect time to connect with DeBella because 0 down and no payments until 2025 on approved credit. Check out DeBella for a free, no-obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath projects. DeBella, the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. All right, so time to wrap up hour number one. We talked obviously a ton of All-Star Game stuff yesterday, and look, I've been around both as a fan and as a radio host for a while, and as I said yesterday, the Monday after the All-Star Game is just it's a you-know-what fest. Let's a complaint fest. There's another name for it that I think I can say on the radio, but you know what? It's 6:45 in the morning. It's a little early for to go blue. You know what I mean? But it's a complaint fest. It's what it always has been. Felt a little bit different yesterday. Now, some of that might be algorithm stuff. Got to be mindful of the algorithm. The phones, they're becoming smarter every single day. And something that maybe is not a big deal may feel like a big deal because the algorithm just keeps putting it right in your face. But I don't really think so. I get the feeling that the commissioner was embarrassed yesterday. The players were maybe, I don't know if they were embarrassed by the performance, but I'm sure they were probably not too stoked about the backlash. I don't know if, being an all-star and then you leave and all of a sudden you flip on your phone and it's just a bunch of people going like, do they even care? There's a complete and utter disdain for the paying audience. And so it feels like maybe there's a little bit of an incentive to change. Who knows? We'll find out again next year when all of a sudden it's like, we could try hard or we could just go through the motions, shoot threes. But regardless, the person on the forefront of this is LeBron James. He's still the biggest draw in the NBA. He's still the biggest name in the NBA. But in case in point, trade deadline came and went. And the only news we got was that LeBron might have been traded. And so he was on the by the way, I forgot to open up John Tesh. So real quick, just for fun, tradition's sake, let's open up John Tesh. All right. So LeBron James was asked by the NBA on TNT crew about the rumors or the reports that were circulating that maybe potentially the Warriors were inquiring, and here's LeBron James's response.
And how much did you entertain that thought?
It didn't go far at all. I actually heard about it when everybody else heard about it. Obviously, Charles been in the league, Kenny been in the league, Shaq been in the league, and sometimes there's conversations happen behind closed doors that you don't even know about. And until, I guess, if it's real or not, then they'll bring it to you, but it never even got to me. So, I heard it when the reports dropped as well.
All right. Anytime LeBron James says actually, I didn't just know that he's lying. And now I said during the post-Super Bowl stuff, I said, if you're Kyle Juszczyk, must-lie situation about the overtime rule. And I don't have a problem, but, LeBron James seems to have a history of fibbing, shall we say. Not out and out like, full-on lie, but maybe stretching the truth a little bit, maybe fibbing a little bit.
Case in point.
Yeah, let's go back. This was a couple years ago. LeBron James said during the Cleveland Cavaliers run to the NBA championship a handful of years ago, LeBron said, I watched The Godfather before every series. That's what he said because he was, want to take on that attitude. I watched The Godfather before every series. I think he said something like I watched it like 15 times or something. His words. And then shout out to international press at the NBA Finals. When asked about what his favorite part of you figure a movie that he's watched over and over and over again, he could at least quote a lot. This was LeBron James talking about his favorite part from The Godfather.
Oh, from The Godfather.
Man.
So many different phrases.
So many.
And too many different lines in that movie to just categorize one.
Can't categorize one.
But which is the one?
He's like, give me an answer.
What's the one?
Present you more. I mean, each movie is 9 hours long. I mean, what do you want me to do?
Name one.
I mean, there's so many. I don't know. I'll let you pick one, and I'll roll with it. It's a great trilogy.
Also not a great trilogy. There's two episodes, two movies of The Godfather.
The fact that he knew there were 3 movies,
That's fair.
like
That's
at this
fair.
point, like let's give him a hand with the fact that LeBron even knew. That's still one of my favorites because I think we've all been there, right? Like it reminds, like, did you ever watch 40-Year-Old Virgin? 40-Year-Old. That was the
Great movie.
bag of sand, if you know what I'm saying, right? That's like clearly you have got yourself down a rabbit hole of talking about stuff that you do not know what you're
It's like
talking
grabbing
about.
a bag of sand.
Bag of sand.
Oh my!
But that's what it is. Only it's LeBron James in front of an international press corps at the NBA Finals, going like, "Yeah, just name one." I mean, so many phrases and
Justin, the
things.
YouTube audience can see I am tipping you my cap for that reference. That Justin, you just stumbled.
One of the sand as he's riding his bike home.
One of the very first R-rated movies we snuck and watched without mom and dad's consent at a birthday party, man. It's
man.
oh yeah, that's Steve Carell before The Office, man. Good time.
But that's what it was.
Yes.
It's like LeBron. Just name one, or like there's the famous Sarah Palin. Like what? Like what newspapers do you read? I mean, all of them. Name one. It's impossible to just name one. Like, yeah, you don't. You don't read the newspaper. Got it. LeBron, you've never seen The Godfather, because if you did, you would simply say, take the gun, leave the cannoli. You would say...
Or any other number of scenes.
Or you would say, I knew it was you. Or you would say, this is the business we have chosen. You just say one of them. And I haven't seen it 17 times. I've only seen it like twice. It's in the lexicon of vocabulary. Take it to the mattresses. All right. We got hour number 2 coming up. We got to talk about Russell Wilson. This Russell Wilson thing is fascinating. We got make or miss. You will all get off my lawn and get off of Brendan's lawn as well. Coming up in hour number 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Brooklyn Nets have named assistant coach and former UConn head coach Kevin Ollie as their newest interim head coach after showing Jacques Vaughn the door yesterday morning. NFL news. Reports are that various teams have called the Bears to check in on Justin Fields. The Bears hold the first pick in the NFL draft, and Teresa Gould has been named the Pac-12 commissioner who will be replacing George Kliavkoff. He will be done and done on February the 29th. She was previously the deputy commissioner. She now oversees potentially the rebuilding of the Pac-12 conference. We got Make or Miss this hour. We have got Get Off My Lawn this hour. Blazers viewership is down. NFL viewership is through the roof. We got a ton of NFL stuff to dive into as well. Hour number 2 of RCM starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. All right, welcome back to Rip City Mornings. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Let's clap it up. Let's get excited about the next couple of hours because there's some doom and gloom in the air. And I'm probably part of the contributing factors. Nobody liked the All-Star game. Whose fault is it? Brenden asked me yesterday. And in the moment, I was like, nah. And then I thought about it some more. Because obviously we are in the business of live radio. We don't have the ability to go back and edit. What we have the ability to do is come back the next day because we're here every single day. Take that, podcasters. I try to mask it, but my growing, not resentment, but every time I tell people I'm in broadcasting, they go, oh, you have a podcast? No, I do live radio. Show up at the studio, we turn the microphones on, and we go live every single day. We don't go back and re-edit it and... Hey, if you're out there and you're podcasting and you're doing it, you're crushing it, good for you. But, oh boy. That's a grumpy old man that maybe for like down the road. I have an appreciation for podcasting. Not the same thing as what we do. No, hey, we do the same thing. Yeah, no, we don't. We don't do the same thing. Maybe I'm just jealous. Like, oh, you 2 shows a week for an hour? Cute. That's awesome. How do you do that? But, anywho. Brenden asked, I thought, a very good question yesterday. And with more thought, I was like, maybe we brushed by that too fast. Brenden asked, is what happened at the All-Star game LeBron James's fault? And
you looked at me with the side eye.
I did. Because I was like, but then I thought about it. And I'm like, all right, let me be clear. It is not LeBron James's responsibility. But it might be his fault a little bit. Because if you go back and kind of look at the face of the league in the NBA, and LeBron has been the face of the league alongside with Steph. Now, I will say Steph Curry bears a little bit of responsibility here as well. Or a little bit of blame. Not responsibility, blame. Got to make sure I keep... It's not their job. Their job is to entertain and play basketball. But there are other factors when you are the face of the league. And for, the last 15 years, this has been LeBron and Steph's league. Anybody else I'm missing? When Kobe popped his Achilles and was no longer championship level, there was no more argument. It was LeBron James and it was Steph Curry. Kevin Durant had a couple of years, but it was never quite. He was never the kind of guy that would like, oh, that is the face of the league. I feel like it was always Steph Curry.
When he had his back-to-back Finals MVPs, I say he had a case. That was the whole who's driving the bus, Golden State.
I understood that.
Yeah, for the most part, you're
right.
But
LeBron has been an enigma his entire career. He has been okay, think about this. LeBron's been in movies. He's in commercials. LeBron is pop culture. You mentioned it. kids have gone from going Kobe to Steph. What's Kevin Durant? Like,
Not very many kids are 7 feet tall.
yeah, but nobody could do what Kobe could do either. You still yelled Kobe when you tried to hit a wad of paper into the.
That's great.
Did you have like consequences if you missed?
Oh yeah, but
we would have teachers you can wad up a piece of paper and you could throw it, but if you miss, some teachers it was just like they'd have like a timeout. Some teachers would be like, you got lunch detention. You throw it and you miss. Lunch? Did you have lunch detention? Is that a thing in Sherwood Middle School or high school?
No, we were kind of
dude.
starting to do away with that form of punishment because that probably was, it was so terrible for kids. They never recovered.
Oh my goodness, yeah, having to sit
Yeah,
and
they never
quiet
recovered.
for 40 minutes. Oh, I got lunch detention so much.
Yeah, because
You would get these yellow slips.
Yeah.
And you would get.
Did you ever have to?
This was worse than the detention. Let me tell you real quick. Hold
Sure.
that thought though.
Sure.
Worse than the actual detention. So you would get assigned lunch detention if you got in a certain amount of trouble. Usually, beep, 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 talking in class. And it was like one day, and you would show up, you would sit, and essentially, you had to wait while everybody else got lunch. Then you were dismissed. You went and got lunch, and you had basically just enough time to eat your lunch while everybody else was out enjoying either out on the football field if it was nice, or in the gym shooting hoops, socializing, talking to girls. And that was it. Like, you missed the social hour of the day. And it was a bummer.
Yeah.
But it was 15 minutes. Like back, and it's funny because 15 minutes felt like an eternity. But it was 15 minutes that you had to sit there and be quiet, do homework, and then you got to go and do your lunch. That was lunch detention. But that wasn't the worst.
Yeah.
The worst was when you got assigned lunch detention, you would get like a yellow slip, and it was bright yellow. And everybody knew, like, all right, third period, teacher's aide would walk around and be like, that's for Justin, that's for it. And it's like, whoa. And then you would basically, it was the scarlet letter of getting in trouble. It was the yellow slip of paper that you got, and like, God, lunch detention. Yeah. And you had to take the yellow piece of paper and you'd give it to lunch detention, whoever was in charge. My mom was a teacher, and a lot of times it was somebody who knew my mom, and they would give you the Justin Myers. And I'm like, what? Just talking a little bit. Anyway, that was lunch detention.
Yeah, I remember there being a very big difference in discipline when I went from private school to public school.
Oh, yeah.
Private school.
Did you get racked on the knuckles?
No, never anything
Get
like
a paddle?
that. But I remember.
Because they can hit you in private school. At least you could in the 80s.
Right. Still, never any physical contact, but I remember, like, it was go stand in the corner in front of the entire class.
Oh, we had to go stand in the corner,
in the corner. And now you're like, that's probably shaming a child.
Put your nose on the wall. Did you have to put your nose on the wall? We had like a piece of paper. You have to put your nose on a piece of paper. And if the paper falls...
What a surprise. Brenden couldn't be quiet in class either. But then I remember when I went to public school, it was like, okay, we don't do that. Now it's just, for every little thing, we're going to write you up with a think sheet, which was a piece of paper, Justin. There was a white copy. There was a yellow copy.
Oh, the yellow copy, yeah.
There was a pink copy. And once it was all done, it went to the office, one went with you, one with the teacher. Problem with that, Justin, you had to take that home and get mom or dad to sign it.
Yeah.
And say this, and they would describe, this is what Brenden did wrong in school today. And then and I can't tell you how many times my mom would sit there and go, you got a think sheet? And we would just, she was tough, man.
I'm fascinated by this.
But
why was it
think about it?
Why is that why it was called a think sheet?
You had to go home and think about it. Shout out Middleton Elementary, Sherwood, Oregon. Let's give them a think sheet to think about it.
So, yeah.
But no, I remember that very well, Justin. I remember, like, folding it in half and being like, maybe I could trick my mom into thinking it's a permission slip.
Yeah, they knew.
Oh, she saw right through that.
They knew.
She was like, it was one of those things.
All right, so we didn't have detention in elementary school. That was just middle school. Elementary school, you would get your name on the board.
That, too, with little checks. And if you got 3 checks, think sheets.
See, we only got 2 checks, and then I think 1 check, it was you don't go to recess, which is, talk about the most punitive punishment, like, of all. It was like, you don't go to recess. What?
I remember that was out
That
there
was
too.
1 check, so you had to sit in class. 2 checks, it was kind of a think sheet, but it was called a referral. And
Referral was our next level.
Referral was you had to get parents to sign it. Only got a couple of those. Got a lot of. Like, I was fairly smart. Name on the board. One check. All right. Hit the brakes, Myers. We got it. But the referral and you get the referral at the end of the week. I would always push it to Sunday night as 60 Minutes was coming on, and I was like, I got to refer, and it was like, we're gonna discuss this. So
it was always like having to. I had to get Mom to sign it, and it was better off if Dad never knew, because Dad was not happy with it, but Mom would just be disappointed and then be like, okay, fine, I'll sign it. Dad would be like, we're discussing this. So, yeah, in hindsight, Justin, probably 60% of what I did, they'd probably go, that's just him expressing himself now.
So that
Different times, baby.
That was the punishment if you wadded up a piece of paper and we said, we didn't really say Jordan, but it was like, MJ! And if you missed, then you would get lunch detention. In some places.
Yeah, our teachers found that so annoying. We'd yell, Kobe, and then they'd just be like, yeah, can we get on with class now, please?
But if you think about, the league's torchbearers, shall we say, the face of the league has been LeBron James, and it has been Steph Curry. And while Steph Curry has a lot of fingerprints on what happened in that All-Star game, because he's one of the reasons why they all just shoot threes now, right? It's not a dunk contest anymore. It's a three-point contest. You look at the people who were essentially the torchbearers of the league before, and believe it or not, it's a fairly short list, because I would say previous to Kobe, or previous to LeBron, it was Kobe and it was Shaq. And the thing that Kobe Bryant had that LeBron James does not have was his ability to not care what people thought. Right? He became the black, at the beginning of his career, he was but he became the black Mamba. He was like, I don't care what people think. I'm only about winning. It's Mamba mentality. He ran Shaq out, took a lot of criticism, didn't care, won championships, and that was kind of the way that the league was like, we don't care about being friends. We'll be friends in the offseason. Ran through Paul Gasol in the Olympics, right? Go watch that the Redeem team. You'll learn a lot about the Mamba mentality. Not always great. And then obviously before Kobe, and there was a transition period. Don't get me wrong. There was a transition period, but Shaq was in the league, and Shaq was like, not worried about being friends. He would bulldoze over everybody, and then, of course, it was the Jordan era. And Jordan famously held grudges and didn't care. And then before the Jordan era, it was Magic and Bird. And the difference is when LeBron James kind of took over as the face of the league, he wanted everybody to like him. And now a big reason for that is because Jordan created a brand. And then all of a sudden, everybody kind of became mindful of their brand and took it to a level of, I want everybody to like me. It's why he lies about watching The Godfather. It's why he's, because I want everybody to like me. See, I'm just a normal guy. And no, you're a superstar. And I do think that with a lot of other factors, including massive amounts of money, but trickled down to hey, we're all here. We're all technically on the same team. And I don't want to tick this guy off too much because I might be on a team with him next year because everybody's moving around. I think there's a little bit of something there. That LeBron James was the first player, face of the NBA, who was incredibly mindful of what people thought of him. I think Kobe was mindful, don't think he cared. I think Jordan was mindful. Republicans buy sneakers too, that whole thing, but he didn't quite care at the end of the day. Magic Johnson had the all-star smile, but inside, he was a killer. He hated Larry Bird. Ultimate competitor. So I do think not his responsibility, but a little bit of LeBron is wanting to be everybody's friend, wanting everyone to like him. Who in the league right now, Brenden, has that killer mentality where you're guy will run over his friend to get a win?
There's a couple guys. Anthony Edwards comes to mind. Luka comes to mind. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comes to mind.
I think he will shoot 57 times to get a win and not make any friends. And I do think in the sense of, like, doesn't care what people think, but but it's the young guys. It's the coming up. It's the post-LeBron young guys who are taking over. It's going to be fascinating. You know what else is fascinating is Make or Miss. We got Make or Miss coming up in a bit. You will all get off my lawn as well because it is a Grumpy Old Man Tuesday. But once again, I want to tell you again about Oregon's roofing, siding, and windows experts, plus bath renovations. That's DeBella. That's right. You've probably seen their excellent work, Better Homes and Gardens, HGTV. 15,000 five-star reviews, that's right, because they are one of the best in the business for things like your roofing, your windows, your siding, and your bathroom renovations. And all of those improvements, while they can look good, they can also make your home much more energy efficient. You could save up to 30% on your energy bills just by switching over things like solar shingles. You can update your roof with solar shingles and get potentially paid for in savings to your energy bill or federal or state incentives. Their estimates are always super easy and convenient, and they are scheduled on a time that is good for you. Plus, you'll get their award-winning customer service. They've received accolades from Angie's List, Home Advisor, and now is the perfect time to connect with DeBella because we're all trying to save some money in 2024. Well, how about this? 0 down and no payments until 2025. That's on approved credit, but 0 down and no payments until 2025. But you'll enjoy the energy efficiency and the savings on your energy bill throughout the entire year of 2024. Check out DeBella for a free, no-obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath projects. DeBella, they are the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, coming up in approximately 20 minutes, we get out on time. You will all get off my lawn. Something happened to me watching Jeopardy last night. Not happy about it. Not happy about it. It's probably more a thing about me than about, and it's definitely not Jeopardy's fault, but had a realization while watching Jeopardy last night. I was not too stoked about. So I will have a grumpy old man rant about it coming up in approximately 20 minutes. We got some more NFL stuff to dive into. Obviously, Tuesdays, usually we are joined by friend of the program, Devon Pouncey. But Pounce had a conflict this morning, so we're going to have him come back next week, which I am pumped about. But we're going to have a sit-down on the couch family talk with regard to college football coming up in hour number 3 as well. But right now, it is time for Make or Miss. Here we go.
All right, firing up, make or miss here on a Tuesday, Justin. LeBron James is a liar.
Well, that's a make. He's lied so many times. We played the Play the Godfather clip again. This is one of my funniest because it is a little bit of like, are you familiar with Us Weekly? I don't know if they still make the magazine. I don't know if we still have magazines. I'm sure there's still a website. I'm sure there's a Instagram. They got an Instagram feed, but like Us Weekly, they used to have these stars. They're just like us. They go to the grocery store. They drop their keys, and it's like one of those. Like this is like LeBron James. He's just like us, only he's doing it at a press conference instead of at a dinner party, lying about seeing something. So here's LeBron James. This is years ago. I think this was
2016.
2016. Thank you very much, Brenden.
Oh, from The Godfather.
Favorite quote.
It's so many different phrases and too many different lines in that movie to just categorize one.
Yep, can't do it.
But which is the one which
He's like, give me an answer.
Represents you more?
I mean, each movie is 9 hours long. I mean, what do you want me to do? I mean, there's so many. I don't know. I'll let you pick one, and I'll roll with it. It's a great trilogy.
Yeah, a.k.a. I've never seen The Godfather ever in my life.
Yeah, that nice man probably it was the NBA Finals, so probably came over from Italy, it sounds like, to ask LeBron questions, and is like, hey, can I just get a soundbite?
Yeah, you said you watched The Godfather. Just tell me.
Just one.
Take the gun, leave the cannoli, and then we'll move on, right? And he couldn't do it. He also...
I would have even respected if he's like, yeah, the scene where Michael Corleone's car blew, like, you know what I mean? Just
something
anything.
at the toll booth, yeah.
Anything.
But he couldn't. It's also, there's a whole thread on Twitter of like LeBron James clearly like fibbing about, oh yeah, I watched that game. And it was like, yeah, no, you didn't. There's no way you watched that game. Or it's like, I remember watching, because we were off that night. I remember watching the first couple of minutes and I was like, Kobe's going to go for 80 tonight. And it was like he said he knew Kobe was going for 80 points in the game he scored against 81 against the Raptors. And the reason we bring this up is because not only did LeBron James at the All-Star break say, oh, I didn't hear about any of this trade rumor stuff, he also threw out I got asked about my retirement and whether or not I'm going to have a farewell tour, which is always funny when LeBron goes unprompted. Like nobody at the All-Star game asked LeBron James about, hey, LeBron, you're about to retire someday. You keep mentioning it every time you lose in the playoffs. Are you going to announce it before the season, or are you just going to, as he said, just Tim Duncan it, just retire and leave? And he was like, I'm 50-50 because, I don't like all the accolades. You don't? That, okay. And said, I got asked about this the other day. I don't think he did. I think this was a fun way for LeBron James to once again throw hey, I might retire one day, and crowdsource whether or not people like the retirement tour. Just that going every single place. Hey, LeBron, good luck on retirement. Here's whatever. You know what I mean? Here's a gift. And like he's totally doing the farewell tour. Like he's totally going to do it.
Yeah.
He has to.
And it'd be all about him. Like,
of course.
It's just, like, that's, yeah, it's just interesting how, like.
So, yeah, it's such a liar. Just, I don't know. I made up my mind. Okay, got it. You're crowdsourcing. Anyway, I cut you off. I apologize.
No. That was pretty much the thought there on old LeBron. I think that, I just think, like, he's kind of in too deep now where he has to, like, maintain this image that he has. Like, you can't come out now and say, yeah, I've never seen The Godfather.
I don't know what's funnier, the fact that he clearly got caught lying about not watching The Godfather, or, like, have you seen the pictures of him only reading the first page of a book? Like,
yes.
During the playoffs, because, he does the whole, I'm off social media for the playoffs. I'm reading books now, and it's like, yeah. And then I think somebody asked him, I think he was reading the Malcolm X autobiography, and somebody asked him, like, what, like, I mean, it was the same thing.
Just
like
all of it.
It's so much things that are still today important. And, yeah, you haven't read 5 pages of that book, and nor should you. You're a busy man.
Yeah.
You're trying to win an NBA championship. I get it. You don't have time to sit around and read books.
Yeah.
I'm not a reader either, okay?
Yeah.
I listen to books on tape.
Sure.
But you don't have to bring a book in every time and pretend like you're reading.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's go ahead and switch over to some women's college hoops, Justin.
Yeah.
Gina Auriemma and Tara Vanderveer are going to wish each one would retire over the next 5 years.
Okay, so this was Joe Paterno before we learned some stuff about Joe Paterno and Bobby Bowden. For years, years, those two just went
Good
like
call.
one would have a good year and the other would have a good year, and they would just kept passing each other.
Great,
number one
reference.
on the wins list, and then Joe Paul got all his wins taken away as they should have.
But now they're
and then
back,
everybody
right?
fought to have them back because I don't know, you're a bunch of sickos.
But the statue isn't there, so it's like it's a real odds. Like only Penn State could come out of. Maybe one of the, that would have been crippling for so many other football programs.
Very true. Don't have time to talk about that today, though. Okay. Is Coach K still number one on the list? Or have they...
They both have passed Coach K.
They both have passed Coach K.
Yes.
And I know that, like, for years and years and years, UConn was the gold standard.
We don't have women's basketball what it is now in college without UConn.
UConn, Tennessee, and Stanford.
Bingo.
I would think those three. Then there's, but
can't forget the Lady Vols, man. That's true. Pat Summitt.
But it is interesting. Like you look at what is going on now in women's college basketball. It's as popular as it's ever been, and I think one of the reasons because you saw what Sabrina did at Oregon, right? That they beat UConn. You saw what Skylar Diggs at Notre Dame. I think so. I think I've got that right. But, like, Notre Dame had a run for a good chunk of time. Mississippi State.
Notre Dame, good call.
Notre Dame, Skylar Diggs, boom. Mississippi State had a run. South Carolina's is a wagon. Obviously, Baylor.
Yeah, Mississippi State was the one that broke UConn. That was they broke UConn's streak. They had won like 4 or 5 national champions. Mississippi State that broke through. Now, I'll say this.
But for a long, long, long time, you could write it like nobody would ever do a women's NCAA tournament bracket because you could just go right to the finals. This was years ago where he's like UConn, Tennessee, Stanford, and then maybe and fill in one other, right? But it was always those three. They were always in the Final Four. And obviously, Gino Auriemma and what he did and built there has been it's fascinating. But I think the reason why now you're seeing women's college basketball getting more and more popular is Caitlin Clark's at Iowa, not at Tennessee and not at UConn. Sabrina was at Oregon.
Or South Carolina, which is pretty much the new
South Carolina.
I think they're still undefeated.
LSU's an interesting team.
They won it last year.
They won it. Angel Reese is as popular as ever. Made a lot of money. Good for them. Good for them. But I think that's a big reason for the popularity of women's basketball now. Is it's not just the same teams. Forever it was if UConn, it was Tennessee, it was Stanford, and that's why now you. So how far apart are they in games?
9.
Yeah,
9.
They're just waiting each other out.
Like,
Just
so
waiting, yeah.
I thought Tara was significantly older. She just turned 70. Gino just turned 69. And what I mentioned to you is,
But didn't Tara Vandermeer, didn't she took like 2 years off to coach women's dream team? I think it was the 96. I think it was the 96.
she did the national team, 95, 96.
Yeah, so she took 2 full years off of coaching there in the 90s to coach the national team. And still is right there in terms of all-time wins. Like, so if she coaches those years, boom, that's probably 60 wins right there because Stanford was dialed in for 31, 60 wins a year. So, like, Gino should be lucky that she coached the national team.
Actually, she still coached. It was concurrently. It was concurrently because
I thought she
took
I thought she took a leave of absence.
not per.
I watched the 30 for 30. I could have skimmed past
this. It looks like she's. I'm looking at her head coach record year by year, and it looks still pretty consistent in the 90s all the way through. You could be right, but regardless, like, I just think it's going to be interesting to see, like, and one thing I mentioned to you earlier. NIL has not fully taken over women's sports yet. It has not fully taken over women's college basketball yet, but as Justin mentioned, it's on the way. I mentioned to him a Gino Auriemma clip this morning where he's getting fed up with, and as two 70-year-old individuals, I would understand, Justin, where NIL is getting frustrating because we have 40-something-year-old coaches and 50-something-year-old coaches who are like, yeah, I don't want the smoke either. So,
all right, we're going to talk about college football coming up in the third hour, but I have a bit of a hot take because I know a lot of coaches, all right? And a lot of coaches say a lot of things, but, like, deep down you can find the hidden meaning. And, yeah, some of it is we build a culture around here, and now it's more transactional. Also, Gino Auriemma doesn't like the fact that he doesn't have the best team every year. And I think that bothers him.
He did it for a while.
And it's like, well, it's definitely not me. It's the system. And it's like, well, you took advantage of the system for years and years and years when there was no NIL, and you essentially had a pipeline to the WNBA and a pipeline to the Final Four. And then when players found out, oh, wait, I can go to Oregon, and if I start at Oregon, and, like, Sabrina Ionescu has a shoe.
Yeah. True.
That doesn't happen before her.
But, like,
she has a shoe. Caitlin Clark is in Nike commercials right now at Iowa. Neither of them went to UConn. Yeah. So it's like, I think some of it is like, oh, what's going on with the system? Some of it is, boy, it really sucks. I don't have the best players.
It's true. But you also have to take a step back and be like, you're right, best players maybe gamed it a little bit, Justin. But, like, just think about that for a moment. Other than Bill Russell, there is nobody you could throw into the category of having 11 like, I think even Tara has 3. I mean, you're talking about like Dawn Staley, probably the coach in women's basketball right now. She interviewed for the Portland Trailblazers job, apparently, and she's only got 2.
Who's the what's her name at LSU?
Mulkey. I think she has 3.
She's interesting. She's a character, isn't she?
Right? So just compare that to the 11, and you're like,
know.
Dang.
It is insane. Where's Tennessee on that list?
Oh, that's yeah. How many does Pat Summitt have?
Where's Pat Summitt on that list? It's got to be somewhere near 11.
Let's see. I just had her on. Pat Summitt has 8. So there you go.
So
okay,
like that was it for the 90s. It was like, it was Tennessee, it was UConn, and like one of them's going.
Did anyone else even play? It's like to the tree fall. Did anyone else play women's basketball?
But I think that's why it's more and more popular now, is because. And again, we're going to talk about this with college football too. It's a secret sauce that nobody wants to talk about, which is people will cheer. It's like the Olympics. We'll watch swimming because Michael Phelps is American. It's like, we don't watch swimming. I remember Michael Phelps smoked weed and everybody freaked out.
And they had the bong at the party.
Yeah,
oh
and it was like,
gosh.
Michael Phelps is suspended. And it's like, yeah, nobody watches those. Is he still going to swim in the Olympics? Got it. Well, because we don't watch swimming after the Olympics.
I was in middle school when that happened. It's like, he was in Beijing a month ago.
I know.
It was so bad.
So, point being is like.
So funny now.
If we have a connection, if old alma mater is good, and we've seen it like at Oregon and at Oregon State, right? Those Civil War women's basketball games a handful of years ago where they were selling out both of the men's team because fans will root for the alma mater and will invest in the alma mater and the players because of the connection, and women's basketball is the next spot for that. The money for football is there. The money for men's basketball is there. Women's basketball is going to be the next spot. And Caitlin Clark, on the shoulder of Sabrina Ionescu 4 years ago, is paving the way, because there is some good old boy in Nebraska going like, well, I want one. Well, we got Iowa gets a women's final. We got to get one of them, and it's like going to write a check. And again, I don't know the legalities of this, but we've talked about it before. People think football is going to be paving the way in terms of what NIL. Women's basketball is going to be right behind it, because women's basketball right now, Caitlin Clark's going to make more money at Iowa than she'll ever make in the WNBA. And that's just market.
Probably over the course of her career.
Yeah, and that's just the way the market is, because Iowa fans care about Iowa, and they don't care about the LA Sparks. Like, they just don't. Like,
Mistaken. I think there's like 12 WNBA teams, so it's a little harder to have like a team compared to like, NBA where we got 32.
My point is that there's more LSU fans that are willing to open up their checkbook to Angel Reese than any and that's the market. And I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. I'm saying it is the market, and we got to appreciate the market. But the market, but here's where it's going to get weird. There is going to be someone. Maybe it's help me out. I forgot her name, and shame on me. Freshman phenom for USC. I think Juju, I think, is her first
the
name.
Beavers just played her on Sunday. How do I?
Yeah.
Give me a moment. Please hold.
She is going to be an NIL.
Juju Watkins, thank you.
Juju Watkins. She's going to be an NIL superstar. She's
so much money.
And at some point, you have to wonder, like, all right, if I can make $750,000 in NIL money, why should I have to deal? Why is eligibility a thing? We're in a capitalist society. We have antitrust laws. We have not collectively bargained as a players' union to. Why does eligibility exist in college sports? The NCAA made up that rule years ago. Why does eligibility exist? Who's to say 4 years, 5 years with a red shirt, that's eligibility? Who's to say? And there's going to be a women's college basketball player who's going to be like, my ability to earn money is at the college game, and they're going to go to court, and they're going to win. And we're going to have, I think, maybe a potential college athletics world where eligibility is not a thing. Mark my word.
You've been saying it for a while.
Because either that or players are going to be put into a players' union and they're going to have to collectively bargain. But it's going to happen. All right. You know what else is going to happen? You're all going to get off my lawn. Something happened to me while watching Jeopardy last night that just got me all fired up. And we're going to talk about it next, 620 Rip City Radio. right, it is time to wrap up hour number 2. And as we talk about a ton, it is cloudy, it is gloomy, it is rainy, and it is Tuesday. And while you may have hunkered down to get through your Monday yesterday, and while Wednesday you can kind of finally see the summit, and Thursday, Friday, you are rolling into the weekend. And by the way, this one is for all of us that worked yesterday. Because, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, fabulous Americans. But we had to work yesterday. I noticed that not everybody in our office worked yesterday, though.
Went to the bank and was embarrassed to see it closed. So, oops.
So this was everybody that worked yesterday along with us, because if you didn't work yesterday, you're like, Justin, why are you so grumpy? We had a 3-day weekend. Well, not all of us did. And some of us had to work yesterday, and if you can call what we do work. And some of us are now in a Tuesday mood. So, with that being said, you all need to get off my lawn. Here we go. All right. Never thought I would ever say this. There's too many TV shows. There's too many. There's too many TV shows in the world. Now, why do I bring that up? One of the greatest TV shows of all time that is still in existence is Jeopardy. I watch Jeopardy every single night. It's a fun little game. It's 20 minutes. It's recorded on my DVR. Fast forward through it. Also forward through the awkward stories like, oh, tell us about yourself. Nope. Get to the questions, Ken. And I was always very worried when we lost beloved Alex Trebek. I love Alex Trebek. Thought, Jeopardy's, maybe it's going to go away. No, it isn't. Jeopardy's still in our life. But every once in a while, something happens on Jeopardy, Brenden and I go like, what am I doing? What is going on? Am I this out of touch? And no, I'm not talking about Russian literature. And no, I'm not talking about world geography. I'm actually fairly decent at those. I watched Jeopardy. It was an old one because I have them backed up on my DVR because I'm that much of a sicko. And it was a category of, it was TV show spinoffs, and you had to name the original TV show. And I'm like, I might run this category because your boy watches a lot of TV. And I was like, I was pumped. I got like 2. And it got me thinking, there was a time in my life where if there was a television category on Jeopardy, I could take it to the bank. I was going 200 to 1,000, 400 to 2,000 in double Jeopardy. Because the point total is double Jeopardy, see. And I thought, and you know what's funny? You know what one popped up? You know that show we talked about last week, Supernatural? Remember we talked about the show Supernatural, and you were like, it's been on for 14 seasons, and I'm like, I've never once heard. Do you know they got a spinoff?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't. And I missed the $800 question.
Yeah, I can't say
because I didn't know the spinoff to Supernatural.
But I knew people who it was their religion, Justin. They loved it.
There's a spinoff to Battlestar Galactica. Never watched that show. That one popped up there. So, got me thinking. There might be too many TV shows. The fact that I, as a person who consumes and watches a ton of TV shows, missed 3 of the 5 on the spinoff category. Oh, there are entirely too many TV shows. So, the fact that there are shows that I don't watch, and really more often, it's just like the fact that I am getting old and I'm getting out of touch, and the kids are watching stuff, and those stuff all have spinoffs now, and I don't know any of them. Well, get off my lawn, because I was upset about it yesterday. Now, I was not the only one upset yesterday, because super producer Brenden went out to. You're at dinner on a school night?
No, breakfast.
Okay, so you left the show.
Yeah.
But because nobody else was working, you went out to breakfast.
Yeah, Mom and I went and took Grandma to. It was kind of late birthday breakfast, just with the way schedules worked, and went to the fine establishment of Sherry's in Newburgh. And Justin, something happened to me while enjoying my meal and catching up with my grandmother, who I don't see all that often.
At Sherry's, you and your mom and your grandma, you were the 3 at the table. Yep. Not any of your
siblings,
rambunctious friends, or your
just the 3 of us.
Mom, and grandma. Beautiful breakfast.
And about halfway through the meal, the waitress comes over and she says, we're getting some complaints about you guys being really loud. Can you guys try to bring it down just a little bit? And
you got tattled on.
I was never more appalled, and I'm like, okay. Like, it was a brief moment of like, do I go scorched earth or do I just calm down and just, take it?
I mean, we don't need an incident in a Sherry's, but.
And, I proceeded to look at my mother and grandmother and say, cool, I don't give a bleep. And that was that. But it was, and then I found out who did. And we exchanged some eye contact in the parking lot as we're leaving. I don't know, man. Maybe Brenden.
Who's the noise police at the Sherry's in Newburgh?
Maybe
Who's the
Brenden,
noise police at the Sherry's in Newburgh?
Maybe Brenden brought his big radio voice. Maybe I was talking a little bit loud, but that is the first time in the history of my life where I've been told to be quiet.
Okay, I've definitely been told to be quiet at a restaurant, but I was definitely inebriated every single time, and I can't imagine at, I would assume, 10:30, you weren't, buzzing off of Red Bull vodkas. If you were, we need to have a talk, but I don't believe it was.
Nope. Sipping on a nice Dr. Pepper, Justin. So, yeah.
You had Dr. Pepper for breakfast, huh?
Well, it was more like brunch. So
gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, I always go for that. You know me. If it's
See, this is where I would be petty, and I would be like, next time the waitress came by, I'd be like, that table is being a little bit loud, and I would really like you to go over and talk to them because they're really. I would just flip it and be like, oh, we're tattling on tables now. Guess what? Now we're two can play that game, ma'am or sir. I don't know if you're.
No, I considered it because I was just like, wait, those moments where you're just almost like just flabbergasted at what happened and you're just kind of like, whoa, I'm kind of frozen in this moment. Like, that's like how I felt. I'm like, really?
It was probably somebody that they eat at that Sherry's every single Monday or every single day and just they want to sit there and they want to enjoy their pancakes or whatever and then, hey, guy can't just hang out with mom and grandma and just have a little gab sesh with the gals?
All that's to say, Justin, your boy was too loud yesterday, so I felt like I was back in elementary school. Thank you to those fine folks who tattled.
Also to the waitress, just be like, you know what? Just don't worry about it. Mind your business. Anyways, but it's a tough spot. I couldn't do it. Tip of the cap to the servers out there. Boy, I don't know what I would do. They have the ABC show, like, what would you do? I don't know what I would do. Here's what I do know.
Shocking.
We're going to hour number 3 next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Brooklyn Nets have now named assistant coach and former UConn coach Kevin Ollie to the interim head coaching position after firing Jacques Vaughn as head coach yesterday morning. NFL reports that there are various teams that have called the Chicago Bears to check in on the Justin Fields situation, a.k.a. kicking the old tires. Bears hold the number one pick in the NFL draft with Caleb Williams looming with a potential trade on the way. And the Pac-12 has named a new commissioner after parting ways with George Kliavkoff about a year and a half too late. But Teresa Gould, who was the previous deputy commissioner of the Pac-12, who also worked at Cal, who was in the ACC, by the way, has now been named commissioner of the Pac-12 Conference. Coming up in hour number 3, we're going to talk some college football and big problems and bigger solutions ahead. Plus, speaking of big problems and big solutions, nobody's watching the Blazer games and what to be done. Hour 3 starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, welcome back to Rip City Mornings. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm sure most of you saw the statistics that came out with regard to NBA TV viewership. And obviously the Blazers were a big part of those statistics, as 49% down. That's half the fan base, gang. I can do that math. 49% down from viewership a year ago compared to the Denver Nuggets, which, not a surprise. They just won the NBA championship and have maybe the best player in all of the NBA. But the Denver Nuggets, they're up 139% from year to year. Timberwolves up 107%. The Phoenix Suns up 94%. But the biggest drop in the NBA is your Portland Trail Blazers, down 49%. Talked about it earlier in the show, but I'm going to go over some of the nuts and bolts again, because then we're going to maybe move on to what is potentially possible here. Because how did we get here? There's a lot of reasons why. And I know there's a lot of people on Twitter that are talking about, well, they're stuck on route. They were on route last year. 49% more watched last year than this year. They were still en route. Same broadcast team, same production, same problem of being stuck behind the Kraken, and then the Mariners, of course, in late March and April. Same problems. Before that, they were on NBC Sports Northwest. Yeah, they weren't stuck behind the Kraken, but they were not on DirecTV. They were not on charter cable in parts of the great state of Oregon. We can go all the way back to Blazer Vision if we want, gang, right? This has been an ongoing problem with the Portland Trail Blazers and putting their product in front of as many eyeballs as possible. That ain't it. It's a portion of it, sure. And as I said, I am still a middle-aged dude that flips around on the TV. I stream a lot of stuff, but I still flip around. I still check the guide. I still see, hey, who's playing on TNT? I'll watch that game. That starts at 4:30, right? I still do that. I could imagine there's probably a good chunk of Blazer fans that are like, Kraken are on. And another part of it is, well, they got 15 wins, and that's a big deal. The Blazer team that has 15 wins is not an aesthetically pleasing product, even with 15 wins, because the Spurs have less wins than the Blazers do, but they at least got that big, tall French guy, and he might go for a triple-double with blocks. You never know. The real reason is after 2 years of tanking and the organization saying they're going to build around Dame and build around Dame and build around Dame, and they never did until Dame's hand was forced, or maybe you feel like his hand wasn't forced. I believe he was. Because there was no faith with the fan base in the organization. There probably wasn't an awful lot of faith with the team's best superstar and the organization to get him what he needs. Now, was there ever a realistic thing to get Dame? We don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But here's what we do know. Cold, hard numbers show that Dame goes away. Big percentage of you guys don't tune in. This is a guy that carried the water for the organization, and to me, that's the most significant thing. Now, ratings do not equal wins. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. Wins usually equal ratings. That's why the Nuggets and the Timberwolves and the Suns have the biggest increase of any of the NBA teams with regard to their TV viewership, is because those teams all have a legitimate chance to potentially win the NBA Finals. The Blazers never did. But I see a lot of stuff on social media. But stuck en route. Nobody cares. Streaming. Blah, blah. You all watched. At least 49% that was lost all watched last year. En route. You found a way, whether it was Tubi, whether it was finding that 1257. That's the channel. I think it's 1257. I don't know. I keep throwing that number out there. But it's in the 1200s, I know. And you dealt with the fact that they were sent to Root Sports Plus, and you all did that last year. This is a superstar problem. The NBA is built upon superstars, and teams understand and fan bases understand. Because we talk about the Suns and the Timberwolves, and I would assume the Thunder and whoever else was, in that increased viewership, right? They all have one thing in common. They got a star or multiple stars. They got Jokic, they got Anthony Edwards, they got Kevin Durant, they got Devin Booker, they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Teams that lost viewership, Wizards, they don't have a guy. Nets just fired their coach. And, of course, the Blazers, who have young talent, but as of right now, nobody on the team that looks like he's going to be the next Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, next Anthony Edwards right now. So then there's the other problem, which is what us here in the great Portland metro area all know about, which is inevitably this team has to be sold. And while there were still problems when Paul Allen was with us and running this team, there seemed to still be a little bit of faith that the buck stopped in Paul Allen's office, wherever it was, whether it was in Seattle, whether it was in Portland, or whether it was probably
in the Moda Center roof,
in some pod.
You've heard the story about the Moda Center apartment, right?
Oh, I've heard. I know. But the buck stopped there. And there was never I shouldn't say never, but it didn't seem to me that there was a lot of questioning of the care that Paul Allen had with this organization. He wanted them to win. Didn't always go about it the right way, but the intentions were the same, wanting to win. Does anybody have faith that Jody and Bert and the entire organization is win at all costs, money be damned? Now, I understand it's a business, and I understand that billionaires don't become billionaires by giving away money and by having losing business ventures. And again, not everything that Paul Allen touched turned to gold. Far from it, other than Microsoft. I get it. But there was still an intent to try to put a team on the court that was a winning product. That hasn't been the case with this organization. That's another reason why the numbers are down. And here's the other thing. A good chunk of Blazer fans know in the back of their mind, or have thought about and have fantasized about, and whether or not it would actually become true, we don't know. But the dream of Phil Knight buying the Blazers and turning the Blazers into an NBA version of what he did down in Eugene with the Oregon Ducks athletic department. It's like, you want evidence, what would be the biggest difference if I don't know exactly what Phil Knight would do, but I know what Phil Knight did in Eugene. I lived it. I grew up as an Oregon fan, And there's a lot of places that have some really shiny buildings where I used to park in a gravel parking lot before. Places where I used to play football in the parking lot of Autzen Stadium that are now occupied by big, giant, bright, shiny buildings. That's progress. That is hands-on. Since Phil Knight decided to go all in on the athletic facilities down in Eugene, Autzen Stadium has been expanded. Matthew Knight Arena was built from the ground up. And by the way, this is not 50 years. This is 20 years. Autzen expanded in 2002. 2002, 22 years ago, Autzen expansion. Matthew Knight Arena was built. PK Park was built. Brand new Hatfield Dowling Complex, state-of-the-art football practice facility, locker room, built. Cranes coming in. Construction workers, hard hats, tink, 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 built. I don't know if you've seen the track facility lately. It's pretty space-orific over there. It's 20 years, new track and field. New basketball arena. Expanded football stadium. New baseball stadium. New soccer facilities. State-of-the-art football facilities. That kind of stuff. One of those things in other places takes a decade or more. How long they try to expand Reser Stadium? And again, not their fault. It's nice to have a billionaire benefactor, but
Yeah, like I had been here.
years of fundraising.
Because they redid Reser the second time in 2005, and then basically from about that on, it was, hey, they're going to do the West Side.
Mm-hmm.
And took about 15 years.
15 years.
Give or take.
And in 15 years, Phil Knight built a basketball arena, built a track and field facility, built PK Park, all of it. So is it possible that in Portland, with local politics being what it is? Because in Eugene, I'll tell you, look, Phil Knight says, I want to do it. Eugene says, have ats. It's just the way it goes down there. Now, I know it's a little bit different up here. And I know that, bright, shiny facilities and new fun stuff doesn't equal wins, and it doesn't equal ratings. But I would imagine if there was even a fraction of the hands-on things that Phil Knight has been able to do in Eugene, I can only imagine what would the Rose Quarter look like? What would the Moda Center look like? What would the surrounding areas look like? And if you want to know what the potential could be, drive 2 hours south of here and go find some old pictures and go take a look at what's going on in and around Autzen Stadium. That used to be a landfill, by the way.
Why do you think that was never a priority for Paul Allen in the mid-2010s? Ever. To, try and...
He was building a football stadium at the time.
You know what I mean? I'm talking 2010s. I'm talking from, when Dame was drafted until he unfortunately passed.
Yeah.
There was never any desire on his part to help push this thing along, to make the Moda Center a better district than it was. I mean, again, you're talking about somebody whose net worth was encapsulated by 20 individuals on the planet.
I think there is...
Money. Cream rules the world around me, Justin.
Yeah, cream get the money, dollar bills, y'all. I think there's multiple things. And maybe I'm talking out of my backside, which has been known to happen once or twice. But there's local political pushback all the time. There's the inevitable I-5, which is right there, right? And how many times have we heard, got to redo I-5? We got to redo the things around I-5. We got, the traffic is a thing. Well, it never been able to get done. I've heard 15 different proposals of the I-5 renovation, right? In and around Moda Center. Same old I-5, same old traffic there every single time. And on top of that, Paul Allen, I know you've seen Lumen Field. Beautiful, by the way. He was also building what is now known as the VMAC, the Virginia Mason Athletic Complex out there in Renton, which is the facilities, the practice facilities, and headquarters for the Seattle Seahawks. I worked there. It's beautiful. I have a hunch that was where a lot of money was going to. It's right there on the banks of the lake in Renton. And they were up there letting him do that. Where I don't know if it was even, and then that's why I think, I don't know if the Phil Knight thing is absolute just, a magic pill. I don't know. But I know what Autzen Stadium used to look like when I was a child. I know, and I love MacArthur Court, and I know what MacArthur Court used to look like, and I know what the new facilities look like. First-hand knowledge right there. Creating engagement, creating a culture, and on top of that, you have to put a good product out there. All right. Coming up next, we're going to shift gears, mention some college football. George Reister, former Oregon football player, current Fox Sports football analyst, he threw out just a very simple question. What's the worst part of college football? And how do we go about fixing it? He didn't add that part. I did, which is what we're going to do next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, last week we had Josh Pate on the program from Late Kick Live with Josh Pate, not just a clever name. And he put out a discussion topic as, what's the best part of college football? There's a lot of great things about college football, and you guys listen to this program know that I am obsessed. I am in love. I have a special place in my heart for college football. I would talk about it every single day for 3 hours, but that would be bad business. So every once in a while, we got to carve out our own little niche. And I've always said the best part about college football is the experience. It's an experience to go to a game. I don't know if you can get the same feeling sitting at Autzen Stadium when they crank up shout in the third quarter than you can watching it at home. Now, I've been to my fair share of NFL games. I've been to Seahawks games. I've been to 49er games. I've been to Steeler games. You get the same experience. As a matter of fact, it might be a little bit better at home. Same experience for an NFL game. That's not the same in college. Even if you go early, even if you tailgate, even if you got good seats, it's kind of the same experience.
Would you even say that about a place like Buffalo where they go nuts, like Bills Mafia?
Like I said, I've been to games at now Acrisure, but it's Heinz Field, right? A great atmosphere. People in Pittsburgh go nuts. I've been to a handful of Pittsburgh Steeler games. You get the same kind of feeling watching it on TV. Lumen Field is loud. It's a tremendous atmosphere. You can kind of get the gist of it, though, watching it on TV. You can't get the gist of sitting in Husky Stadium looking at the lake. That's an experience. You've been to Husky Stadium. You don't get it watching it on TV. To me, that's the thing. College football, it's the experience. So then George Reister put out a question, and I kind of see where he was going with this, which what is the worst part about college football? Because college football's taken a couple of 1-2 punches as of late. Nick Saban retired. Jim Harbaugh left to go to the NFL. Chip Kelly tried to leave to the NFL, and before that, now is the Ohio State offensive coordinator. Boston College's head coach leaves to go to the. So I was like, what? What's everybody leaving the? Is everybody jumping off the college football bandwagon? Is the boat taking on water and we don't know about it? I'm not so certain about that. But we do know that it is a fascinating time, and not necessarily fascinating in the best possible way, but sometimes in we don't know what's going to happen. That's fascinating type of situation. So George Reister put out, what's the worst part of college football? And I'm going to throw it out, what I believe the worst part about college football is and how we go about fixing it. Here's the worst part about college football as we sit here February 20th, 2024. Worst part of college football is uncertainty. It's uncertainty. There's always been problems. There's always been issues with dirty money, recruiting violations. There's always been issues with coaches, maybe abuse of power. But what you had for years and years and years was certainty. You knew that on New Year's Day, the Rose Bowl was going to be played. You knew, even unlike in the NFL, you knew that if you were an Oregon State fan, you were going to play Civil War at the end of the year. You knew it. It was certain it was going to be there. You knew you were going to play your rivals. You knew who you were going to play for the majority of your schedule. Also, college football, in a weird way, schedules non-conference games a gajillion years in advance. You knew the schedule. Yeah, every once in a while when the Pac-10 became the Pac-12 and you missed a couple of schools here and there, but for the most part, you knew who you were going to play. You knew who was in the Big Ten. You knew that if you won the conference, and again, I'm kind of predating even the college football playoff, you knew you were going to play in the Rose Bowl. There was certainty there. And In the last 4 years, Pac-12 has collapsed. 4 teams are going to the Big Ten. 4 teams are going to the Big 12. 2 teams are going to the ACC, and 2 teams are just kind of hanging out. What is going to happen to the Rose Bowl? We don't know. Is it still going to be played on New Year's Day? We've got a 12-team playoff. It might for the foreseeable future. Who's going to be on your schedule? We don't know. Is conference realignment over? Don't know. Can players be paid? Sometimes, but sometimes not. Can players transfer? Most of the time, but every once in a while, no. Who's going to be your coach next year? No. Now, that's always been a problem. But college football in the last 4 years has not been given enough time to breathe. All right, let's. Conference realignment, playoff expansion, NIL, and transfer portal. Also, on top of that, COVID and COVID eligibility. They've all been thrown at this sport in the last. No wonder they haven't got it quite figured out. No other sport has, like, every sport dealt with COVID. Got it. All had to deal with it. But did they have to deal with 15 other things going on? Now, you might say, well, Justin, college basketball is having to deal with the same stuff. Now, that is true. That is true. But here's what I know, though. That NCAA tournament ain't changing. College basketball, yeah, conference realignment, paying players, NIL, transfer, all that. You know what, though? At the end of the day, you win about 21, 22 games, you're going to go to the tournament. You win your conference tournament, you're going to go to the big dance. The big dance is still going to have a Final Four. College football has gone from bowl games to national title to Final Four to 12-team expansion in a matter of 9 years.
And I know we've talked about this a lot, but I still think it's something where you need to look back and go, that was the moment when you knew Mount Olympus was starting to crack, kind of a thing. And it's, again, not legendary coaches. But again, we all got, recency bias with Jeff Hafley, right? Going from Boston College to Green Bay. And that's unique. But again, I'd like to remind people, Chris Peterson walked away at his peak, okay? Bronco Mendenhall walked away at his peak.
Yeah. It's happened before.
David Shaw was okay, let me put this really simply. Justin, does Oregon have a national title without David Shaw on the way?
Why you got to do that? Does that mean? Is that because I brought up the whole expansion of Reeser thing? Why?
No, because that is how important and impactful I think one guy was standing in the way of what was maybe the greatest team assembled for a couple of years. But you get my point. Like, when you saw, like, and I said this forever, like, David Shaw didn't forget how to coach football. He's like, oh, this new world of NIL and Stanford, it's not how I've made my bread buttered, and even Chris Peterson. Chris Peterson, Justin, how much longer could he have coached? Isn't he like 54?
Yeah, he could have coached for a while. But again, I think
that's when I was like, okay. And that was what, 3, 4, 5 years ago now? And they knew what was coming.
Well, I think
they knew what was coming.
But that's kind of my point is, at some point, you got to let this sport breathe, right? We go about, like, how do we go about fixing it? And it's not to sit here and be like me sometimes and just yell at the clouds and times they are a-changin'. But you got to let it breathe a little bit, because if it feels like every single, like, what is the worst part? It's uncertainty. But here's the other worst part, which I know it is grammatically incorrect, because there can only be one worst part. Just like more perfect union is grammatically incorrect. It's right there in our Constitution. But shout out President's Day. One of the other things is fixing things that aren't broke. Casuals who do not have the sport's best interests trying to fix things that are not broke. And I understand that USC and UCLA took a big giant payday to go to the Big Ten. But you know what? The Pac-12 had its faults. It wasn't broke. It was a little bent. Maybe needed a little duct tape and a little, elbow grease. But it wasn't broke. Texas and Oklahoma got a big, giant, fat payday. The Big 12 wasn't broke. Too many people in this sport are fixing things that aren't broke. And now you can't go back and undo what was done. The Big Ten is the Big Ten. The Big 12 is the Big 12. The SEC is the SEC. Who knows what the ACC is going to be, and that's my worry. That's going to be the next domino to fall. But point being is, the uncertainty has been the problem. I truly feel that if they just did, hey, we're going to do NIL, but the Pac-12 remained the Pac-12, the Big 10 remained the Big 10, the Big 12 remained the Big 12, and kept transfer rules in place where you had to sit out a year to transfer, didn't do conference realignment, didn't expand the college football playoff, I feel like the college football sport could have been like, all right, we can handle this. Were there going to be outliers? Yeah, there were. But you combined everything with COVID on top of it, and no sport has had to deal with these type of crazy changes in a 4-year stretch than college football has. Massive changing of the postseason, a postseason system, and you may have hated it. You may be like me, didn't hate it. But the Rose Bowl's been around for what? 130 years? Something crazy like that? How long's the Rose Bowl been around?
January 1st, 1923, baby.
All right, so 100 years.
Yeah.
100 years of a Rose Bowl. You've had the Cotton Bowl. It's been around for, I would assume,
I would assume
80 years. Somewhere
shout
around
out engineering, able to make that nice of a stadium 100 years ago.
The view is nice. Getting out's a little tough.
That's fair. I've only been one time.
Oh, man, it is a pain to get out. But anyways.
Like, that's modern marvels, man. How could all those men build that in 1921, man?
It is always funny, though, too, because people go to the Rose Bowl, and then and it's beautiful, and it is an unbelievable setting, and you tailgate on the golf course and everything else, and usually it's New Year's Day and it's beautiful, right? That's the reason why it's the best setting. But then also, like, you go like, man, that's a tiny little video board there.
This is true.
But so in the last 4 years of college football, we are massively overhauling postseason, a postseason system that has been, with bowl games, been in place for 100 years. We're just going to massively overhaul. Sure, bowl games are going to stick around, but not for long. So you're massively overhauling that. For 150 years, college athletics, now I know people were getting paid, but for 150 years, college football players played for scholarships. Not even always for scholarships, and so you massively overhauled revenue. The Pac-12 as an institution has been around for over 100 years. And in the last 4 years, Pac-12 kaput. Century overhauling 4 years. Shocker that that college football has pulled a hamstring a little bit. Like, give the sport some time to breathe. But it has been nothing but uncertainty. And you can understand why there are some coaches that maybe don't want the smoke. Maybe it's like, what's next? I can figure out NIL, right? If I'm just pretending I'm Coach Myers here, I can figure out NIL. I can get my boosters together. I can get my collective together. We can take a look at what the market is going to take. We can do a little fundraising. Let's figure it out. We combine that with the transfer portal to where now, okay, I got to get my money figured out and I got to re-recruit all these kids. Now, if you just flip and say, all right, we're not going to have NIL, which is what I thought should have happened. Transfers should have been allowed, just not through NIL. To where it's like, you don't feel like this is the right opportunity for you to better your football life and your academic life, then sure, transfer, go home, go to a different coach, all that stuff. And I think coaches would have been able to figure out, hey, open transfers, 1. 2, you got to wait a year. 3, hey, what do we got going on here? You got to have a master's degree by then. But if you did that without the NIL stuff, I think sport would have figured it out a little bit. It's like, yeah, it's going to be a little bit extra in terms of effort with recruiting, and you're going to lose some guys, but you're going to gain some guys. I don't think it would be this meat market that it's become each and every December. And if conference realignment would have happened, but you didn't throw in NIL, and you didn't throw in maybe things could have been a little bit more settled. Although I have a hunch without NIL, I don't know if conference realignment happens. So, getting back to what's the worst part about college football? It's the uncertainty that the sport has taken on over the last 4 years without an ability to take a breath. Oregon beat Wisconsin in the 2020 Rose Bowl after the 2019 season. We know what happened 3 months later. 3 months later, COVID came into our world. Feels like a couple of months. That summer, NIL. Players can get paid. Then Texas and Oklahoma left. Then USC and UCLA left. Then Oregon and Washington left. Colorado left. Transfers are open. How many years of eligibility? I don't know. Let's roll the dice. Cam McCormick, by the way, he should be able to play dealing with injuries, but Cam McCormick, you get 9. How about this kid at North Carolina? Does he get 4? No, he doesn't. Why? We'll get back to you. You throw all this stuff in a 4-year period. It's like, all right, if nothing changes in the next 3 years, guess what? The markets will settle. Things will even itself out. It's how the universe works. It's how sports works. We'll all be able to breathe. But if the ACC breaks up and realignment once again happens, or if Amazon decides we're going to pay a gajillion dollars, like, we're going to be right back at this. Uncertainty. Can we just keep some things, can we just chill out a little bit? This is Justin Myers has been my TED Talk. All right. We've got the RCM mailbag as we wrap up hour number 3 and the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show. You guys know what time it is. It's time for random questions. Any subject, any topic, nothing is off limits. We learn, we grow as a show, as a family, as a group of friends. We're all just hanging out here on a Tuesday. Am I putting a little bit too much on the mailbag? I don't think so. Let's open it up.
All right, firing up the big mailbag today. Thanks for tuning in to Rip City Mornings. We've had a very interesting show today, Justin.
I would
talking
say
about
so.
grumpy old man that.
Yeah, you almost got kicked out of a Sherry's yesterday.
I did. Yeah, so that I did not have that.
You got lectured by a server at a Newburgh Sherry's.
I did not have that on my Brenden bingo for yesterday.
No,
so,
especially at like 10 a.m.
I know. Right? 10 a.m., Sherry's. But, hey, if you missed the story, definitely check out what Justin and I talked about back in Grumpy Old Man. But let's go ahead and get to the mailbag today, Justin. Give me your take on 4-day work weeks. Could they work?
All right. You want to I believe they could. You want to get nuts? All right. I had a former not really a boss, more of like management at NBC Sports Northwest. Shout out to Adam Willis. This was his idea. And I don't know if Adam took it from somebody else, but he presented it to me, and he told me, and I go, that's insane. And then I thought about it. This is where I think because you're suggesting a 4-day work week and everybody gets 3-day weekends. Think about this. What if we today is Tuesday. What if we eliminate Tuesdays? What if we eliminate Tuesdays? Now, you might be thinking, Justin, you can't just eliminate a day of the week. That's insanity. Think about it, though. Nothing really changes. Nothing changes. No major holidays fall on a Tuesday, right? It's not like the only thing that would change, you'd have to change the Constitution in terms of Election Day, which we should have done a while ago, by the way. Election Day should be on a Saturday, but neither here nor there. You eliminate Tuesday. You still keep 31 days in January. You just have more Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So you go, every week is 4 work days, 2 weekends, and you go 4-2, 4-2, 4-2. Tuesdays, gone. Shout out Leonard Skinnard.
No, I've said forever I would work, in the sense of a traditional 8 to 5.
I don't know how we pull it off.
Or 9 to 5. I think a lot of people, Justin, would work, and I know people who do it that way and get their 40 hours done in 4 days so they take Fridays off.
But I'm saying, like, you go Monday, okay, let's say we don't eliminate Tuesdays, but it's like a floating weekend. Now, again, this is very hard to pull off. But you just go Monday to Thursday. Weekend is Friday, Saturday. Go back to work on Sunday. Then you work Sunday to Wednesday. Now you got Thursday, Friday off. So it's 4 days of work, 2 days off. Problem is we got to get everybody on board.
I'd be down with that.
I would too,
yeah.
But guess what? Can we do anything as a society anymore? No, we can't.
I don't know if you did hear about state of Oregon, Justin. They're making moves.
Is this the state we're going to create one standard time?
No, we're going to be like Arizona and Hawaii and be like the heck with the rest of y'all.
Yeah, but what did Arizona do? They kept daylight savings time, which is the best of the times. And us doofuses want to stick with standard time.
I actually don't really know the difference between the two.
Daylight savings time in the summer, it's dark. It's light at 9:30, right?
Yeah.
Well, now it'll be 8:30. Yeah, no fun.
It's one of those things where
I guess if for us, because we're up early in the summer, it would be lighter earlier.
Yeah.
Like at 5 a.m. when we come driving into work, it'll be daylight. But I don't know if the rest of the world just make daylight savings the time.
I don't care enough to say like one or the other. I just don't want to change my clocks. It's a pain in the rear. It's annoying. And just like this year, falling back. It was nice to get an extra hour of sleep, but then you're like, okay, it's dark at 3 o'clock. And then.
But like I said, we all, like, it would be so easy to just Daylight savings is
Right.
the time.
Yeah.
That's the time. Nobody change it from here on out because
Yeah.
we don't need to change it. By the way, go look into the problematic history as to why we have the changing of the clocks. Has nothing to do with farming, by the way.
No.
A lot of people think it does.
Yeah.
No, farmers get up when the sun comes up,
Yeah.
and the rooster crows not when daylight savings time is. It has to do with industrial. There's
Yeah.
some things also. So, don't have time to dive into that. You can Google it. You got time. We all can't just agree daylight savings. That's the one. Just do
I'd be
that
fine
one.
with that, man. I think we need to.
But now we got to make. But Oregon, of course, we have to do it all weird. Why?
Yeah.
I love this state. It is my home. It is where I am from. It is. I left my heart in Oregon. You know what I mean? You probably hate that song.
No, the bummer thing is it's actually a mandatory driving song for me. Like, I have to listen to that when I'm on I-5. Down Interstate 5. God, it's just catchy, man.
But
no.
But I just why can't we just do the normal thing? Daylight savings, what we want. We live in it
just
in the
wait,
summer.
Justin. There's gonna be. It'll probably be like 20 years from now. There'll be like some millennial or Gen Z who then can run for the highest office in the land, and they will run on the promise of making universal time. Like that will be a.
I know.
That'll be a thing one day. But nevertheless, let's get to one more before we close out the day, Justin. I am very excited to see where you go with this. What's one job you would never do, even for $1 million?
It's a very.
Is
Very
this?
good
Are we
question.
going? Are we harkering? Or
You're gonna think that I am nuts, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I come from. The reason I wouldn't do it is because I know it. I come from a family of educators, and they are doing the Lord's work out there. I couldn't be a teacher.
for $1 million, you
Couldn't do
would
it.
be really
Couldn't do it. Even with summers off.
okay. I could be just about anything for $1 million. I wouldn't clean porta potties for $1 million, like the dude at
Yeah,
Buffalo.
look, you get a nose plug, and you just keep your head down and you go to work. You don't have to deal with these little sassy, sass mouth kids.
Give me elementary school, man.
They're all hooked on their devices.
Just
and
no middle school. I'm out on middle school. I do elementary school. Give
That's
me
what
like the kindergartners, man.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't be a teacher. Couldn't do
So
it.
you
I
don't
tried
think
it.
you could even get around like one grade where they're not snarky and they're mostly sweet?
They
Like,
all talk back, dude.
well,
at least
a
that's
little
what
less in like kindergarten,
they'll
first
show
grade.
me on my TikToks. It's like, oh, look at these little kids talking back. I could have in like the 90s when you could like actually chastise children, but no, like I would be in a meeting. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. All right. You know what I can do? This particular program, and I appreciate all of you for hanging out with us each and every day, whether it's just for a smidge or right now. Thanks to super producer Brenden. We are back at it tomorrow morning, bright and early, here on 620 Rip City Radio.